Most people think emotional intelligence is something you're born with. They're completely wrong. There's a proven framework used by the most successful people in the world to develop emotional intelligence. And the best part? Anyone can learn it. The habits are simple but powerful, and they start working from day one. Here's the thing though. Research shows that 95% of people believe they have high emotional intelligence, but when tested, only 10 to 15% actually do. That's a massive gap. Most people are walking around thinking they've got great people skills and emotional control, while everyone around them knows the truth. And this lack of emotional intelligence doesn't just hurt relationships. Studies prove it affects job performance, mental health, physical health, and overall life satisfaction. The good news? These 8 habits can change everything. Number 1 is to master the pause before reacting. This is the game changer. When something happens that triggers strong emotions, the amygdala, the emotional center of the brain, fires off signals 100 times faster than the thinking part of the brain. That's why people say things they regret, send emails they wish they could take back, or make decisions in anger that cause problems later. Here's what actually happens in the brain. When emotions get triggered, the ability to apply reason and logic drops by 75%. Think about that. 3/4 of the thinking power just disappears when emotions run high. That's why the pause is so critical. The pause creates space between what happens and how someone responds. Instead of reacting automatically, there's a moment to choose. It doesn't mean pushing emotions down or ignoring them. It means letting them exist without letting them take over. Here's how to practice this. When emotions spike, take one deep breath. Just one. That single breath slows the heart rate and gives the brain time to catch up before the mouth starts moving. During that breath, ask one simple question. What do I want to create in this moment? That question shifts everything from reaction mode to intention mode. Start practicing this in low-stakes situations. Traffic jams, long lines at the store, tech problems. These everyday frustrations are perfect training grounds. The more this gets practiced in small moments, the easier it becomes in big moments. Number 2 is to name emotions with precision. Most people use maybe 5 or 6 words to describe how they feel. Happy, sad, angry, tired, stressed. But emotions are way more complex than that. And here's the interesting part. Research shows that the simple act of naming emotions with more precision actually reduces their intensity. This is called affect labeling. When someone takes a moment to identify exactly what they're feeling, like distinguishing between disappointment and regret, or between anxious and overwhelmed, something happens in the brain. The emotional intensity actually decreases. Try this approach. When an emotion shows up, get specific. Instead of "I'm stressed," dig deeper. Is it feeling overwhelmed by too many tasks? Is it worry about a specific outcome? Is it frustration from lack of control? Each of these is different, and naming the right one makes it easier to deal with. Journaling helps with this big time. Writing out emotions forces the brain to process them more clearly. Even just a few minutes of journaling each day can dramatically improve emotional awareness. And the science backs this up. Studies show that people who journal regularly report better mental health, clearer thinking, and improved ability to manage difficult emotions. Number 3 is to actively seek feedback from others. Here's an uncomfortable truth. Self-perception is usually way off. Remember that stat from earlier? 95% of people think they have high self-awareness, but only 10 to 15% actually do. That means most people have huge blind spots about how they come across to others. The only way to fix this is to ask directly. Ask managers, colleagues, friends, or family members how they would rate emotional intelligence skills. Ask them about responses to difficult situations. Ask about how adaptable they seem. Ask about how well conflicts get handled. This feedback won't always feel good. Sometimes it's hard to hear, but it's often exactly what needs to be heard. The people around us see things we can't see in ourselves. They notice patterns in behavior that might be invisible from the inside. When asking for feedback, make it specific. Don't just say, "How am I doing?" Instead, ask things like, "How do I handle stressful situations?" "Do I seem defensive when receiving criticism?" How well do I listen when others are talking? Specific questions get specific answers that can actually be used to improve. And here's the key. When feedback comes, listen without getting defensive. Thank the person for their honesty. Take time to think about what they said before responding. This is the pause in action again. The natural reaction might be to explain or justify behavior, but the better response is to consider if there's truth in what was said. Number 4 is to practice empathy through reading and perspective taking. This one might sound strange, but studies show that reading literature with complex characters actually improves empathy. When someone reads a novel or story from another person's perspective, the brain practices understanding different thoughts, motivations, and emotions. It's like a workout for social awareness. But empathy doesn't just come from books. It comes from deliberately trying to see situations from other angles. When someone does something frustrating or confusing, instead of immediately judging, pause and ask, what might be going on for them? What pressure might they be under? What information might I not have? This doesn't mean excusing bad behavior or letting people walk all over boundaries. It means understanding that everyone has their own complex internal world, just like everyone else does. And when that gets recognized, interactions become more productive and less reactive. Here's a practical way to build this skill. In conversations, practice what's called reflective listening. After someone shares something, reflect back what was heard before responding. It sounds like you're feeling frustrated because the deadline changed last minute. Is that right? This simple technique does two things. It confirms understanding and it makes the other person feel heard. Both are crucial for emotional intelligence. Number 5 is to use humor and play to manage stress. This might seem out of place in a serious discussion about emotional intelligence, but research is clear on this. Humor and play are natural stress relievers. They literally change the chemistry in the brain. When someone laughs, stress hormones decrease and feel-good chemicals increase. The nervous system comes back into balance, the mind gets sharper, and empathy actually increases. That's right, humor makes people more empathetic, not less. But this isn't about being the class clown or making inappropriate jokes at serious times. It's about keeping perspective. It's about finding moments of lightness even when things are hard. It's about not taking everything so seriously that stress becomes overwhelming. Think about the people who handle pressure well. They usually have a sense of humor about situations. They can laugh at mistakes instead of beating themselves up. They can find something amusing even in frustrating circumstances. This isn't being careless or dismissive. It's being resilient. Try adding small moments of play or humor into daily life. Watch a funny video during a work break. Share a lighthearted moment with a colleague. Find the absurd in everyday frustrations. These little moments add up and create better emotional balance overall. Number 6 is to develop a grounding practice. When emotions get intense, the body often feels it before the mind fully processes what's happening. Racing heart, tight shoulders, upset stomach, shaky hands. These physical sensations are signals that emotions are running high. Grounding techniques bring awareness back to the body and away from overwhelming thoughts or feelings. One simple method is called the feet grounding technique. When feeling overwhelmed, put all attention on the bottom of the feet. Feel them touching the ground. Wiggle the toes. Notice any sensations. This sounds too simple to work, but it does. It pulls attention out of the head and into the body, which naturally calms the nervous system. Another approach is the 5-4-3-2-1 technique. Name 5 things that can be seen, 4 things that can be touched, 3 things that can be heard, 2 things that can be smelled, and 1 thing that can be tasted. This forces the brain to focus on present moment sensory experience instead of spiraling thoughts or emotions. Breathing techniques work too. Box breathing is popular for a reason. Breathe in for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts, breathe out for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts. Repeat several times. This activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the body's natural calming mechanism. The point of grounding isn't to make emotions disappear. It's to create enough calm to think clearly and respond effectively instead of being completely overwhelmed. Number 7 is to practice seeing conflict as opportunity. Most people avoid conflict. It's uncomfortable. It's stressful. It can damage relationships if handled poorly. But here's a perspective shift that changes everything. Conflict, when handled well, actually strengthens relationships instead of weakening them. Think about it. When two people disagree and then work through that disagreement with respect and honesty, what happens? They understand each other better. They learn how to communicate more effectively. They build trust because they know they can handle difficult conversations together. The relationship becomes stronger, not weaker. People with high emotional intelligence don't avoid conflict. They approach it differently. They see it as a chance to understand someone better. They stay calm even when the other person is upset. They focus on solving the problem instead of winning the argument. Here's how to practice this. Next time there's a disagreement, try to get curious instead of defensive. Ask questions to understand the other person's perspective. Acknowledge their feelings even if there's disagreement with their conclusions. Look for solutions that work for everyone instead of just pushing for one specific outcome. This doesn't mean becoming a pushover. Boundaries still matter. Standing up for what's important still matters. But the approach changes from me versus them to us versus the problem. That shift makes all the difference. Number 8 is to build consistent self-reflection habits. The foundation of all emotional intelligence is self-awareness. And self-awareness doesn't just happen automatically. It requires regular, honest self-reflection. Successful people with high emotional intelligence make time to check in with themselves. They ask hard questions. How did I show up today? What triggered me and why? How did my actions affect others? What could I have done differently? This kind of reflection works best when it's scheduled and consistent. Maybe it's 10 minutes at the end of each day. Maybe it's a longer session once a week. The key is making it a habit instead of something that only happens when problems arise. During reflection time, look for patterns. Do certain situations always cause stress? Do interactions with specific people always go poorly? Does time of day or level of tiredness affect emotional responses? Patterns reveal areas to work on. Also use reflection time to acknowledge what went well. Emotional intelligence isn't just about fixing problems. It's about recognizing and building on strengths too. Maybe there was a difficult conversation that got handled really well. Maybe a moment of frustration got managed before it turned into a blow-up. Those wins matter and deserve recognition. Some people find it helpful to track emotional intelligence progress in a journal or app. Seeing improvement over time, even small improvements, builds motivation to keep going. Here's what most people miss about emotional intelligence. It's not fixed. It's not something you either have or you don't. It's a set of skills that can be learned, practiced, and improved at any age. The brain can actually change and build new pathways through repeated practice of these habits. So those are the 8 habits. Master the pause before reacting. Name emotions with precision. Actively seek feedback. Practice empathy through reading and perspective taking. Use humor and play to manage stress. Develop a grounding practice. See conflict as opportunity. And build consistent self-reflection habits. None of these are complicated, but they all take practice. The good news is that even small improvements in emotional intelligence create huge benefits. Better relationships, less stress, clearer thinking, more success at work and in personal life. Research shows that emotional intelligence is actually a stronger predictor of success than IQ. Start with one habit. Just one. Practice it for a week, then add another. Over time, these habits become automatic. The brain rewires itself, emotional intelligence grows, and life gets better in ways that might seem impossible right now. The people who excel in life aren't necessarily the smartest or most talented. They're the ones who understand and manage emotions well, both their own and others. That's the real advantage. And now the roadmap to get there is clear. Subscribe for more psychology and self-improvement strategies.